What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live to react to the NFL officially announcing a 17-game NFL regular season for 2021 and the foreseeable future. So in this video, I'm going to react live, get some of your responses, your reaction, and mix it in with my own reaction and my own response to the NFL expanding their schedule to 17 games. We always knew this would be a possibility. We heard about it a very long time ago. I want to say it was like last year around this time that we first heard about this possibility. And I'm going to give you my perspective on it, kind of my thoughts, the pros, the cons. Is it good? Is it bad? And go through what it could mean for the NFL right now for 2021 and what it could mean for the future of the league. So before I give you my thoughts and my reaction and a rant, because you know that's coming. Guys, I got to get some steam off of my chest. It's been a couple days since I've gone live. So I'm carrying a lot of energy right now and I got to get it out. So I got to take it out on somebody. It's going to be the NFL. It's going to be Roger Goodell and it's going to be this league, all right? So before I do that, make sure that you do spike that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more NFL. What's going on, guys? Shout out to the boys. Kevin Durkant says it's such a dumb idea. Steeler Nation says, I just want to see if Ben can last. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm not so sure about that, bro. We're going to see the real stamina of the man named Big Ben. Ya boy, John. What's going on, Johnny? He says Kevin Durkant. Durkant says he's on a late new... I don't even know what you're saying, bro. Casey says, hey, Mitch, what's going on? Casey. Hey, Bennett, what's going on? Bennett. Make sure you guys do spike that like button. All right, so 17 games for the NFL. Let's just read here the report from the NFLPA. So I have here in my hand on my phone, all right, the NFLPA's report. So 17 games. What does it mean for the players? NFL owners bought the right to go to 17 games in the 2020 CBA in exchange for players getting a larger guaranteed share of revenues, a media kicker, better benefits, higher minimum salaries, and additional reductions to time at work. Now, remember, last year they redid the CBA, and that's exactly what it's saying here. And within that CBA, which I felt at the time, I didn't love the deal for the players. I kind of felt like the players should have gotten a better deal than they did at the time. And I still think I feel that way, to be honest with you. I don't really remember all the details, but I do think like this 17 game and potentially an 18 game schedule could be on the horizon as well, and that's going to be interesting. But I really do feel like 17 games, there's good and there's bad about it. I think, off the top of my head, the first thing that comes to mind is like, I'm kind of a traditionalist in terms of the NFL and in terms of sports in general. So I understand that statistics, are going to change, and statistics as the game evolves and it changes and certain things come in and out of style for the league, in terms of passing or running or defensive rules, and rule changes have opened up the game and changed stats and the way we reflect and look at players and seasons and history. That's already happened. And, just for example, like that's happened in basically all sports, right? You look at specifically, what I can think of, basketball with how the game has evolved from a three-point shooting perspective, or you could look at the defense and the openness of the game and how points have increased. Defense has kind of been less of a part of the game, so to speak. You look at hockey, with the pads of the goalies and the scores going down and them trying to change the rules to get scores back up. We had guys like Wayne Gretzky scoring 90 goals in an 82-game season, in the 80s, and now you'd be lucky to get 50 from a player in a year. So, all sports change. With the NFL, we've seen, obviously, passing expanded. I would say, really, since 2011, the game has opened up from a passing perspective, and we've seen those records be shattered after year. And with the NFL going to 17 games, it just really opens it up even more for that possibility to exist when it comes to history, when it comes to records, when it comes to shattering these records that already stand. And I get it. They're going to, as time goes by, they're going to be shattered regardless of if you have 16 or 17 games. But I think when we really look at it, it's definitely going to change the history books of these records. So that's the first thing that came to my mind is an NFL historian, as somebody that prides themselves on knowing the history of the game and the way that we look at these players from the past generations. It's certainly going to devalue, in some sense, the way that we look back at these players, because their numbers are just going to pale in comparison to the future players in this league. Whether that be due to the schedule or due to the rule changes or due to both now, that's already been a problem, but I feel like it's just going to become even more of a problem with 17 games. So that's the first thing that came to mind. Obviously, there's a lot more that comes to mind here. So with the players, are the players getting enough benefits here to add another game to their schedule? Now, I do think the preseason, at least at some point, is going to be shortened. If it's not already, it's definitely going to be. And I think a 2-game preseason is going to be the future of the preseason. And maybe they might even do away with the preseason entirely, although I don't think that would be a good idea. Because I do think the preseason does matter for certain players making the roster to see the depth. And even as a fan, I do enjoy watching 1 or 2 preseason games every offseason from, my team or from some teams to get a sense of, the borderline players on the team, or maybe even for fantasy fans out there, things like that. But I do think preseason action is important if you're like a borderline player to try to fight for a roster spot. There's only so much you can do in practice, right? In the live practices. So I think 17 games from a player perspective is only going to put more wear and tear on their bodies. I'm really confused why they have not asked or why they have not tried to get a 2 bye week system. Okay? And Killicam says the preseason's 3 games. So that makes sense. I still think it should be 2. But 2 bye weeks, especially if they're going to go to 18 games, which I do think is going to happen, because I do think they wanted a rounded off number. I feel like it used to be 14 games for a long time, and then it switched to 16 games. I do feel they're pushing to get 18 games, right? The whole sense of their new playoff format was to get more games. It wasn't necessarily because the old format wasn't working. It obviously was. People were interested in it, and it was very good, and I love that system with the 2 buys. But what the NFL wanted with that, with switching it, was to get more competition at the later weeks in the season. They wanted to have, obviously, more games for television purposes, for money purposes. So for the league, this is phenomenal, right? You're only making more money. You're only getting a chance to up the right fees before they have the chance to renew them, right? So it's getting around that time where they're making those decisions of ESPN, CBS, Fox, Amazon, whoever's bidding on the NFL is starting to get their pocketbooks out. They're starting to get that cash flowing, okay? Because this is going to happen pretty quickly. And I think they pushed to do this now, right? To get ahead of this and to do the 17 games, because they could go to Fox, they could go to ESPN, and they could say, we now offer another week of football. And that is just that much more money that they're going to be able to get from those, media companies, those media outlets, whether it be an NFL network or an ESPN or whoever it may be. They're going to be able to get more money out of those places and those broadcasts. So that's huge for the NFL. It means more money for the league, and it means more money for the players as well. I just do worry about the physical wear and tear about the players, and that's why I hope that if they eventually move this to 18, I don't see a huge difference between 16 and 17 games, because to be honest, like a lot of the teams that are in playoff contention anyways will sit their players in the last game, or maybe they'll be more strategic with how they do so at the end of the year. But a lot of the times, like let's just take for example the Chiefs this year. They played like 15 games. So a lot of the times the best teams in the league only really play 15 games anyways. So like all the other teams typically do play those 16 games. But I don't see a huge difference between 16 and 17. But it's when it might go to 18 where they need to maybe think about introducing that bye week. And I think that's what's going to be best for the players. And when you think about it, it's also probably going to be best for the product, because you don't want the product come playoff time to be worn down and to be torn apart and to be watered down is probably the right way to put it. Is like you don't want this product come January to be watered down to the point of these players are not healthy enough to give their 100%, their 110% in the biggest game of their season because they've gone through too many games, right? The NFL is unique. Football is unique as a sport where they play once a week because of that, because it's such a physical, demanding game, mentally and physically for that matter. And we see a lot of injuries already. So adding another game on top of that is certainly not beneficial to the players. But like I said, everywhere else, for a fan, yeah, it's going to be awesome to see one more week of football. Like fantasy season is going to be 1 week longer. That's going to be fun. That's going to be awesome. I mean, one more week to try and get in those fantasy playoffs, right? One more week of gambling. That's awesome for me. I love it. One more week to analyze these teams and to make videos. As a content creator, that's very cool, okay? But for the players, it's not exactly great. Okay, so yeah, I think it's pros, there's cons, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, in terms of the 17th week, they did release the matchups that will take place. So as far as I understand it, I believe the NFL is going to do like a every year. If anybody has the exact note or can look it up, let me know. But the way that I understood it when I first saw it was if you're like the AFC East, like say the Patriots, for example, you are going to play the NFC East every year, but you're going to play the team that finished the same rank as you did the year previous. So this year, for example, New England is going to play Dallas because they both finished as third place in the AFC and NFC East. Okay? So that is how that is going to work. So if you're the Bucks, for example, you're the NFC South, they finished second in the NFC South. I was going to say first. They finished second in the NFC South. It's weird saying that because they won the Super Bowl. And then AFC South, they're going to play the AFC South. They're going to play Indianapolis, who finished second in the AFC South. So that's how I understood it, is the 17th game is like an cross-conference game where you're playing, if you're in the East, you're playing the East. If you're in the North, you're playing the North of the other conference. Okay, that's how I would explain it best. So these are some of the matchups that we can look forward to in 2021. All right, so we have the Seattle Seahawks, Pittsburgh Steelers. So maybe that's not how it works, okay? Because we're seeing some of these. I don't exactly know how it works, honestly. Like, that's how I saw it because you see, okay, so there's the Saints who play the Titans. There's the Bucks who play the Colts. There's the Panthers who play the Texans, right? Those are all kind of within that formula. But then you have some of these random ones. And by the way, this graphic is from my boys at Catch the Blitz on Instagram. Go give them a follow for NFL news and opinion over there on Instagram. Give them a follow. You got the 49ers and the Bengals. Like, that doesn't follow the formula. The Packers and the Chiefs doesn't follow the formula. But then, once again, you go with New England and Dallas. You go with Miami and the Giants. You go with the Washington versus the Bills. I mean, those all follow the formula, but then there's other games that do not. So that's kind of weird. I'm not exactly sure how they determine that. I kind of like when it's pretty clear. So Brian says that the current plan is to match interconference divisions that played each other 2 years ago. That just makes it more confusing. Like, I'd rather add almost like another divisional game, so to speak, or another rivalry game. Like, the way I'm saying that is, like, you would almost make, if it's an AFC East versus an NFC East, you would almost be able to make it so that it's a rivalry game if you continuously did that season to season. Brian says they all follow the formula. All these games were 2 years ago. See, so are they going to do that every year? Like, I honestly didn't know. That's just what I saw because I saw all these games matching up. I was like, okay, the Washington's playing Buffalo, New England's playing Dallas, the Giants are playing Miami. Okay, I guess they all played 2 years ago, but that doesn't really make sense. I don't know. I don't really agree with that, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I would rather if they went with a different formula where it is almost creating another rivalry. I think that's what they should do. So whether that's within the AFC or within the NFC, they should have probably had a different strategy for how they do that. Not saying that I don't like some of these matchups. Again, taking a look at some of these matchups, right? I like Seattle, Pittsburgh could be entertaining. I mean, the Rams and Baltimore, that's going to be an awesome game. The Bucks and the Colts, that's going to be a phenomenal game. You have the Chiefs and the Packers. I mean, Mahomes and Rodgers, are you kidding me? So that's excellent. Of course, Dallas and New England is a high-profile matchup. There's a lot of good games just on this card right here, right? The Vikings and the Chargers could be pretty entertaining. There's a lot of really good games here. But as far as I'm concerned, I would have found a way within the schedule, and they could always change this if this is their plan. And again, guys, I do think eventually we are going to get an 18-game schedule, so maybe that will change things. Maybe we'll see more AFC teams play NFC teams down the line, because with 18 games, it's going to mean that we play, and even with 17 games, as this is suggested here, we are going to see more AFC and NFC matchups, which is always fun because for fans of the AFC, you don't get to see certain teams for years. I mean, just for example, my favorite team is obviously New England. My dad's favorite team is Dallas, okay? And we went to the game 2 years ago in 2019 when they played in New England. But the time before that, they played right in 2015. And then the time before that, they played in 2011. So my team versus my dad's team only ever happened every 4 years. So that's how it was constituted under the 16-game schedule. But with a 17-game schedule, right, New England's playing Dallas 2 times in the last 3 years, which is far more interesting to me and relevant to me as a fan. So that's kind of cool. Rob says the regional rivalry is a good idea, but it doesn't work every 4th year due to the scheduling formula. All right. Brian says, so next year, for example, the NFC South would go to the NFC North. So basically what they're doing, Brian, is they're doing the 4-year formula that they already have, and then they're doing another 4-year formula based on the 2nd year of that formula. That's basically what they're doing, right? So they're basically doing, yeah. going on, guys? What's up, Bethel? What's up, Odd Big King? Says this opens up more rivalries for the AFC and the NFC. C says anyone else besides me loved watching Kong lose both fights against Godzilla. I have not seen that movie. Is it already out? Is it already out? Rob says week 18 Saturday will air on ABC. That's right. They're also doing a week 18. So let's look into that for a second here. There's also something else that I saw from the NFLPA, which says, and what about the new media deals? Okay. So this says, since players share the revenue that is brought into the NFL, more money for the NFL means more money for the players. That's what I said. The new CBA also increases the players' revenues shares as a part of the negotiated media kicker, which comes into effect when we play 17 regular season games. As a result, players will see even larger revenue increases in future years when the new media revenue really begins. Now, I understand the NFLPA is also always going to look at it from a player perspective and always spin it positively towards the player perspective. But I still think you guys got a little ripped off. I'm going to be honest. I'm just going to say that. Let's actually look this up. But Tom Pelissero tweeted 8 hours ago that the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, says that the league expects to have full stadiums during 2021 with all fans, I guess, in attendance. So for those of you that are in the United States, which I believe are most of you, have fun, I guess. I don't think I'll be able to go into any games soon, but we'll see. So we've got the Twitter here. Let's go with the week 18. I just want to look this up. So week 18 will presumably be mostly division games. As per recent practice, we'll have 2 Saturday games with a playoff impact on ABC. Interesting. What else we got here? Yeah, but I do think there's going to be 18 weeks, guys. I really do. The season just got bigger. Regular season increases to 17 games. Regular season length increases to 18 weeks. The added game will feature teams from opposing conferences that finished in the same place within their division the previous season. Okay, I was right about that. Preseason reduced to 3 games. I still think it should be 2 games for the preseason. What do you guys think? I'm going to be really interested who gets the rights for these games, though. Isaac says 17 games is weird. Hopefully they increase it to 18 soon and add a bye. I agree. Jacob asks, what do I think about the Bucks keeping Levante David? That's awesome. I love Levante David. He's a great player, and yeah, he's a good signing. Donnie says the NFL has had a 20-game season package for years. When it was moved to 14-game seasons, they played 6 preseason games. When it shifted to 16 games, they played 14 preseason. Now it's 3 and 17. I just see, as the years have gone on, the relevancy of the preseason has become less and less important. I mean, you see teams like the Rams don't even play starters in the preseason in any games. I think 2 preseason games is plenty to see how the players on the bubble look. Because you got to remember, you have cross practices with other teams, which, Bill Belichick largely started that across the NFL. These inter-squad scrimmages with, other teams. That is like a preseason game, right? Competitive practices. I think just keeping these guys healthy, keeping these guys in good shape is better for the product as well as better for the health of the players. So I'm on the side of the players, guys. And when I look at it from a fan perspective, I do love seeing another game. And like I said, it's going to be awesome for gambling, for fantasy, and for content. I just wonder if they, if they should have just waited to go to 18 games and added the second bye week, but I don't know. They'll get to it eventually. We know it's going to happen. LGRW says it's bad to have 17 games. You don't get an even amount of home and away games. That's also a great point. That's true. And it's not fair to just make up for the next season. Yeah, that's kind of true, because that does kind of screw certain teams, right? It screws kind of half the league, right? Or at least it's a disadvantage to half the league. That's something that I'm going to be interested in this first year here, especially with fans back in attendance, bro. Like, do the teams that have more home games actually make the playoffs more often than the teams that have less? That is something to pay attention to, because I think that's fascinating. Obviously, home field didn't really matter this year because there were no fans, but this year is going to be different. Tampa says, I wonder when we play the Patriots and Colts, who's going to go up against Trent Brown and Quentin Nelson. I'm sure all of the D linemen will see them at a certain point. Joe Mixon says, who signed that Eagles football? This is a Brian Dawkins football. It actually says the Wolverine right there. Brian, Sports Media. Yes, Mitch Milani, kiss all the records goodbye. You guys like my new desk, by the way? I just got this. It's this nice wood desk. I used to have a kind of a glass one. Gronk, spike that like button if you haven't. I know we have 30 people in here, and we only have 10 likes. So Gronk, spike that like button. Young Key says AFC gets all the home games, then it switches. NFC, worst records this year. Go Buck says, does Mitch follow the CFL? You're an Argos fan? Are you from Toronto? I don't follow it. I kind of casually watch it, I guess. Like, I'll watch some of the playoffs, and I'll watch maybe the Grey Cup, and then I used to be really into like the Lions. I'd watch probably I'd watch them pretty often when I was younger, but I kind of fell out of love with it, to be quite honest with you. Odd says, I think they will do a switch to 18 games before the season starts. I don't think so. What's my early Super Bowl pick? I'm not going to spoil that, bro. We got some videos coming out. I'm excited for it. You guys should be excited for it. I've been in the lab here. We've had a rough weekend of schoolwork, so now I'm thinking of content to put out for this next week, and I have some good ideas that I think you guys will be interested in, and I know some of them will be like team ranking, prediction based, which I know you guys love that stuff, so that is going to be kind of post-free agency sort of stuff. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the 17-game schedule, guys. Just wanted to give you a quick rant, quick reaction. I think it's going to be fun for the fans, great for the league. It's going to make everybody involved more money. But I do believe it's going to be worse for the players. And I do worry about certain logistical things and how that will impact the league this year. But I'm certainly interested in seeing it and how it goes down. And as a historian or as a person that loves the history of the game, I do think it's unfair to those that played in the past. Just for example, a Peyton Manning who holds records. It's unfair because I feel like Peyton Manning's records are going to be passed now far more quickly. And a guy like Tom Brady, for example, or Drew Brees, who played for like 20 years, now a guy can play for 15 and surpass his records because he has one more or two more games that he can play. So it happened with the past generation, with this generation, and with the game only getting more offensive and with the games being added, it's going to be more difficult for you and I to assess statistics as an actual usable thing when comparing players down the line. So from that perspective, it certainly sucks. But I'll leave it there for now. Thank you guys for watching. Again, if you enjoyed, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I will say this, somebody said in the Discord, what is going to be the first record that gets smashed? What's the first record to go? And I do believe it's probably going to be passing yards. I do think it's probably going to be passing yards because I think when you look at it, somebody's probably going to reach, maybe this is a bold take, somebody's going to reach 6,000 passing yards within the next few seasons. Somebody is definitely going to do that. I don't know who. Maybe it's Mahomes, but somebody's going to do it pretty quickly. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. And we will see you soon. Pay attention to the channel. We're coming in hot. Peace.